We are thrilled to be talking about ChatGPT today. I think this is a topic that is hot in the news, and I feel like you might be on one end of the spectrum and all in and totally been exploring it and understand a little bit. You might be like me and kind of were a little skeptical at first, but intrigued and interested and not really understanding, or you may have never heard of it. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, we got you. I'm excited to hand it over to Jake to get us started.
Thanks so much. Hey, everyone. Big warm welcome to our super exciting and informative webinar on using AI tools like ChatGPT to seriously level up your nonprofit's fundraising game. Today, we're going to delve deep into how embracing these innovative cutting edge technologies can help you connect with donors on a more personal level, also streamline your processes, save you time and resources so you can focus on what really matters, which is making a difference. We'll be sharing practical tips, real life success stories, and a bunch of cool tricks to help you make the most out of AI tools to help maximize your fundraising potential. And don't worry, we're going to break it down into simple, easy to understand language. So whether you're like an AI whiz, or a total newbie, you'll be able to walk away feeling empowered and ready to take action. So before we begin and jump headfirst into this world of AI-driven awesomeness, let's take a moment to address the robot in the room. You might have seen some sci-fi flicks that portray AI as this all-powerful force that's about to take over the world. But let's be real here, we're not quite there yet, and it's not happening anytime soon. So as we explore the potential of AI for your nonprofit, you can sit back and relax and enjoy the ride without any apocalyptic concerns hanging over your head, except everything I just said was written by AI. Every word. And to get this prompt, exactly what I just said, this is what I asked ChatGPT to give me. I said, write an intro paragraph for a webinar presentation about how to use AI tools like ChatGPT to raise more money for your nonprofit. Write it in casual spoken English so I can read it, but it sounds natural. The paragraph should end with a disclaimer about how AI isn't actually that far along and will not be taking over the world anytime soon. And that's what it gave me. So just kind of a fun little example of what it can do. We'll get into the specifics of it. Some of you may know a lot about this tool, and we can go super deep into those of you who have already been playing with this a lot in this session and in some later sessions. But also, if you've never heard of what this tool does, we'll kind of give you the basics. So one thing, oh, the PowerPoint isn't up. Can everybody see the screen, or is it not there? Oh, okay, good. One thing we want to talk about is that ChatGPT is just one version of the AI technology. There are lots of different AI tools out there, ranging from free to paid to anything else. But this is just one specific tool. It's a language tool specifically. It's an AI language model capable of reading, understanding, and generating incredibly complex text to mimic human behavior, output, and even creativity. GPT itself actually stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which means this company, OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT, used it to scrub the internet of every bit of text and language it could possibly muster and get it to generate human-like responses. So you can always have a conversation with it. We'll talk about all the different things people are doing with it and what you can do with it. But more importantly, we want to really end the session today talking about how it can apply to your job and make things faster and easier and save you time so you can keep doing what you're supposed to be doing with fundraising. Before we started, we did poll our network on who's using this. Right now, 33% of the people who've answered our survey have used ChatGPT for work or related tasks. 56% have not, and 11% not only have not, but don't know what it is. So there's a good variety here. We'll have a little bit of something for everyone today. So I'll turn it over to Jared. He's just going to kind of walk through some of the most remarkable things that this specific AI tool can do right now.
Thank you, Jake. So now that we understand a little bit about what exactly ChatGPT is and what it does, let's look at just some concrete examples of how people are using it. So even in preparing for this forum, we actually learned some new ways you can use the software that even we had no idea it was capable of until recently. This technology is growing and expanding all the time, especially with how much money is being poured into it. So the first, I'd say probably most well-known thing that can do is generate human-like text. So this is probably the most well-known feature as far as what it can do. It has the ability to generate text and content that sounds remarkably human-like. And if you haven't seen it in action, think of it this way. If you have ever used Siri or Alexa, those language models aren't terrible, but it's generally very clear that you're talking to a machine that was pre-programmed. So the lines, though, on ChatGPT are a little more blurred in regards to how natural it sounds when it's generating these words. So depending on what you're having it write for you, I would argue that some of the time, but not all the time, that it is indistinguishable from human speech, which is one of the reasons why it is all over the news and everyone's talking about it, and you can see it all over LinkedIn and that type of thing. Another thing that it can do is translating languages. It's a very simple one, but it doesn't make it any less significant. So being able to translate not just single words, but long form content and complex ideas that don't necessarily have direct translations in other languages is an absolute superpower. And I know what you're thinking, and that's, well, we already have that with that ability with Google Translate. And I'll tell you right now, if you've ever studied foreign language, Google Translate is wrong a lot. It is a lot better than nothing, but it can be disastrously, hilariously wrong. And the point I'm trying to make is that the fact that ChatGPT can translate either as effectively or even better than Google Translate, in addition to all the other countless things it can do, is not to be taken lightly. Summarize text or entire video transcripts. Again, very simple. But think in terms of how many professions it would be useful to plug text into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you summarize this in 5 sentences or less? So pretty useful. It can answer simple questions, give you a more direct answer far more quickly than Google can. So when Google, and I'm sure a lot of you can remember, when Google became mainstream, it was absolutely mind-boggling that you could use this tool to search for almost anything, and that anything that you wanted, and it would have the results just all right there, right in front of you in like 5 seconds, boom. And so rather than spending hours or more looking through books for the answer to your question, you could find the same information in just a couple of minutes and just click on a couple of different links on Google to find the answer. ChatGPT is basically that minus the couple of minutes of clicking on the links. So we have gone from whenever we need the answer for something to hours to minutes, and now we have gone to seconds. Compose poetry and creative writing. So this is arguably, in my opinion, one of the funniest things that you can do with ChatGPT. It's personally one of my favorite things to do with it, and I encourage you to try this if you want to make an account, is to have it write content for you on some topic. So pick your topic, anything you want. And after it has written your content, you ask it to convert the same content that it just wrote into a poem. And it does it perfectly in about 3.5 seconds. You can even ask it to write the poem in the style of any particular poet that you choose. And that also includes rappers. So whether you like Shakespeare or Edgar Allan Poe, if you want it to be super dark and scary sounding, Pablo Neruda, Alexander Pushkin, or Lil Wayne, it will write your content in a poem in their style so beautifully that you will not believe it. Develop code. Writing code is not something I personally know a lot about, but I do know that if you do write code for a living, or if that's part of your job, you can ask GPT to literally do your job for you and then just check it for errors at the end. So that's pretty crazy. Can also do things like offer recommendations based off of what has been written about a topic in the past. It can tutor you in various subjects. It can stimulate characters for video games and role playing. It can change tone of text that it is given. So this is a cool feature where you can actually write exactly what you are thinking and then have it change the tone of what you wrote to be whatever you want. As in, we want it to be more professional, you want it to be more casual, you want it to be more friendly or lighthearted, whatever tone you're going for. So for instance, let's say that I know that Shauna is incredibly sensitive. Now, I know Shauna, I know for a fact that she's very much not sensitive, but for the sake of this example, let's say that she is. And let's say that I'm just really mad at Shauna and I have to write her a strongly worded email just to speak my mind. I can take what I write and ask ChatGPT to write the same thing in a more professional tone, and it will do just that. So I don't have to worry about offending Shauna and how sensitive she is. So I don't burn any bridges with her. And I'll have another example of that here in just a second. Next slide, please. So you can ask it to brainstorm ideas, either 5, 10, or 50 ideas based on whatever topic you want. You can have it at You can ask it to give you 100 ideas. It really helps when you're having a creative lull or you have writer's block, if that's something that you're going through with your job. It can assist with language learning. Already mentioned that briefly earlier, but it can help you learn the language on your own so that you can recall it when ChatGPT is not there to help you. It can generate marketing copy. So this can be incredibly useful as well. If this falls into your realm of responsibility, it's very common for fundraisers to also have marketing responsibilities, or at least be marketing adjacent. So while having it write marketing copy outright, or at least giving you ideas, is very helpful. It can offer career advice. It can create personalized fitness and nutrition plans. You can input your schedule, your lifestyle, your dietary restrictions, your dietary preferences, and what your goals are, and it will generate a fitness plan for you. Can design conversation starters and icebreakers. It can perform sentiment analysis, and we'll get to that here in a second as well, assist with mental health support, generate art and music descriptions, and it can write speeches and presentations. Now, while that intro bit was written by ChatGPT, I promise that my portion of this presentation was not. Jake's might have been. I don't know. You're going to have to ask him, but I actually did not get ChatGPT to do the heavy lifting in this scenario. All right. So, and just to confirm, can everyone see the PowerPoint screen?
Looks like a yes.
Anyone not see the PowerPoint screen?
All right.
All right. So here's just a couple of the screenshots of examples of the prompts that we have used and what it created, so you can kind of get a better idea of what it can do precisely. One moment.
And Jared, if your screen or your internet's being laggy, I can go through these examples real quick. Just jump back in when you're ready. So in this first example, I said, you are a marketing expert for nonprofits. And those of you who use ChatGPT, we try to start with giving it a role. You're a fundraising expert with 25 years experience. You're a professional coder. You give it a role so that it knows how to say and what to say. So you start with giving it its identity. You are a marketing expert for nonprofits. Create a social media strategy for the next 2 months for my charity called Scott's Tots. If you watch The Office, you know what that is. We provide scholarships to underserved youth who need assistance paying for higher education. Include an entire social media post calendar. So here's the overview that it gave us, how often to post. It gave us a fun hashtag called Empower Tots, which platforms to use, what content types we're going to need. And then it gave us a month to month, week to week, with every single post, exactly what we need to do and when. It all did this instantly. So this is just the first couple of pages. It gave us pages and pages, but just to see. In the second example, I said, write a limerick about Pride Philanthropy, the greatest fundraising company in the world. And it says, there once was a group known as Pride, whose fundraising skills were bona fide. With hearts full of cheer, they'd gather each year to lift the world's spirits worldwide. Not amazing, but for a limerick written in 1 second, and you can give it even more detail on this. It can do entire sonnets if you want. It can do entire essays. This is a big problem in schools right now because, you have to write an essay. Kids now can just hit enter and their whole essay is done. So we're having to kind of rethink the education system. On the back end, teachers and professors can also input essays and say, grade this for me, and it will instantly give it a grade. Check it for grammar, check it for accuracy. So there's a lot of things that we're having to rethink and re-question at this point. Here's a third example. I said, analyze this text for sentiment and tone. And then I put in an entire chapter of Pride and Prejudice, just copied and pasted it. And it said, this sentiment is predominantly neutral with some instances of this. And it gives me this 4 kind of neat paragraph summary of how the sentiment is. It also gives some specifics about Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Bingley. Overall, the tone is mostly neutral with shifting between conversational, sarcastic, etc. So it gives kind of an essay for me. And then the final example here, I said, change the tone of this email to be far more professional and appropriate for a workplace email. Here's my email. Yo, Jonathan, what the hell, man? I thought you would have this to our team by Tuesday, and now we won't be able to send the client the mock-up because you couldn't get your together long enough to finish your part on time. Now I have to do your portion and work late. Ugh. And then it says, here's the revised version. Subject, project update, delay in submission of mock-up. Dear Jonathan, I hope this email finds you well. I noticed that portion of the project assigned to you was due to be completed by Tuesday as per our agreed upon schedule. Unfortunately, it appears, and I won't read the whole thing, but it gives you this really nice, light tone of an email. It's the same thing that I would have said. It just cleaned up my language, made it professional, and allowed me to keep my job here with Jonathan. So these are just a couple of fun examples. There are thousands, if not millions, of fun things you can do. I've seen some people do where they set up an automatic dump in their inbox. So they get an email, ChatGPT receives the email, reads it, understands what's to respond with and the replies, and then puts a draft for you of your response in your draft box for you. So any email you get, it'll automatically have the entire reply ready for you. All you have to do is check it and then hit send, so you can respond to emails within seconds, even if they're multiple paragraphs long. So some really cool tools. Jared, are you back?
I am. Yeah.
All right. What
Should have
can't
asked.
it do?
Yeah, should have asked ChatGPT to help me with some technical difficulties, but we're good to go now. So what can't it do? The potential problems and shortcomings of ChatGPT. Now, if at this point that you think that we are huge fans of ChatGPT, then you're only about 80% correct. This program is not perfect. It certainly has problems that need to be solved that are currently being addressed and worked on every day as we speak. But it could be months or years before these are resolved completely. But these are the problems with it as it stands in April of 2023. So the first one would be bad information or wrong answers. So sometimes the answers of what it generates are just plain wrong. It may have scrubbed the wrong bit of text, or maybe it's pulling from an unreliable source, but sometimes it is just completely inaccurate. Not often. I'd say it is generally right the vast majority of the time, but that's why it's always a good idea, like Jake mentioned, to just proofread what it writes and just check it for accuracy when possible. Limited knowledge of current events. So this language model has scrubbed the internet for information, I think, up to 2019. So anything that's happened recently, it's not super well versed in. The most recent update, ChatGPT 4, has, I think, scrubbed through 2021. So there's stuff about the pandemic in the new version, but its little brother, ChatGPT 3, doesn't know that a pandemic happened in 2020. So nobody tell it, just in case our future AI overlords are listening. But that just makes it less useful for professions like journalists who cover current events. But that's just one shortfall that it has, is some of the information that it pulls from is not current. Plagiarism issues. This is a huge one for obvious reasons that Jake already mentioned. So, why spend hours or days writing an essay for school when ChatGPT could just do it for you? This has been a huge issue with schools and teachers and professors trying to police this, as kids are technically plagiarizing other people's work. They have not yet figured out a solution to this. OpenAI has discussed putting a digital watermark in the metadata that ChatGPT generates so that it can tell it was not written by a human, but we're still trying to figure that out, as this is all completely new territory, which also leads us to legal problems. There we go. Yeah, those are kind of 2 in 1 right there. So you get into the issues as far as legal problems of the status of generated content and how to protect it. Who holds the right to use said content? If something gets posted online that has legal consequences, but was entirely generated and posted by AI, who precisely is legally responsible? And there's a lot of questions like this that we have virtually zero legislation for, because this technology is so new. So it will be interesting to see how that develops. Bias built into the answers. So being that ChatGPT is currently scrubbing texts written by biased human hands, some of the text that it pulls from is susceptible to these biases. I don't necessarily mean things that are only offensive or derogatory biases, even though that is also a concern. Even things that are just opinions that people have written about. So for example, if you ask it which is the best team in the NFL, and it might say the Green Bay Packers, even though if you watched Aaron Rodgers last year, that's not true, but it might be pulling from an article in 2011 during their last Super Bowl win. So a good thing to keep in mind. So the bias is built into the answers across a myriad of different topics. Causing real world harm. So there are some things that could have serious consequences in the real world that are a result of ChatGPT. There have been things like having ChatGPT generate hyper-realistic phishing emails so that criminals and hackers can install malware on your computer, steal your data, steal your financial information, or giving incorrect medical advice to those who are physically or financially unable to receive direct medical care. There's a lot of stuff like this that could have real-world consequences that are not necessarily positive. The company OpenAI holds all the power. Again, the OpenAI is the company that has created ChatGPT, and they choose what data is used to train the software. But that information is not available to the public, though. So we don't know the details about how it was trained, what data was used, where the data comes from, or what the architecture of the system looks like in detail. At the end of the day, there's really not much we can do about this, and we basically just have to blindly trust that OpenAI will research, develop, and use this technology responsibly. And lastly, AI taking over the world. Now, the truth is that no one knows exactly where this will go. Those who don't know a lot pretend to know exactly where what's going to happen. They'll say with certainty that AI will absolutely take over and we're all doomed. And then there are others that say there is not a chance that AI will take over. But all the experts in the field, the ones who are developing this technology and working on it every day, almost all of them say, yeah, we don't know. We have no idea where this is going to go. My take is that we can do absolutely nothing to stop this from developing. It is going to grow, whatever our opinions are on it. So it is 100% out of our control. So we might as well learn about it, get versed in it, and learn how to maximize this tool that is going to exist either way to be as good at our jobs as we possibly can. So now, after the exhaustive lists of both what it can do and what it cannot do, I'll turn it back over to Jake so he can dive specifically into how this can help us in our fundraising efforts, because we can talk about ChatGPT and what it can do all day, but we want to give you some actionable steps to have ChatGPT help you do your job better as soon as this afternoon.
Awesome. And yeah, regardless of how you feel about the ethics or the future about it, there are lots of fundraisers right now who are using this to get ahead. And if we want to keep up, we can also learn to use this tool beautifully and do a lot with it. So we'll give you kind of the list of ways that current fundraising programs that are using this effectively are using it, and how they're using it, and the things that you can actually type in to ChatGPT. By the way, this software is free. You just make an account. The upgraded version, ChatGPT 4, which I love because it's more accurate, it's a little bit better, is $20 a month, I think, but you can get a free account if you want to play around with it. But you can put in these prompts yourself and actually have it work on some of this work for you. So the first thing is creating and brainstorming strategy for your marketing and outreach. One thing I love to do is have kind of a conversation with it and in the first couple of lines, and then use it to create my entire marketing strategy for me. Now, we're not literally doing this at Pride yet, but it's just kind of a fun thought experiment that we're playing around with. We'll say things like, we're this kind of a foundation. This is the kind of people that we're serving. Please act as a marketing expert, specifically with expertise in digital marketing and SEO. You have 25 years experience, and I've hired you as my full-time marketing director. So you're giving it the role of, hey, you work for me, you're a marketing director. And you say, here's what we're trying to do, here's what we're trying to accomplish. And we're going to work through and build this together. I want you to build me a plan. And then I say, what other information do you need for me to be successful? And it'll give me a list of questions, like 7 to 10 questions, like, what's your target demo? How big is your population? What's your fundraising history? And you input all this information. It says, great, based on all this, here's the detailed marketing strategy. And then it pulls out pages and pages and pages of exactly what to post and when and how often. It even gives you the posts themselves, so that all you have to do is put that into a social calendar and assign it to an intern almost. It is pretty close to turnkey in terms of what it does. And it really, really helps with kind of just figuring out what you want to do. Now, of course, you can take that to your actual marketing department and say, here's a draft, edit this, kind of perfect it, dial it into what you need. But I just saved you, 6 hours of work creating a 4-page report on what your marketing effort will be over the next 6 months. So it does a wonderful job of that. The next, of course, and the obvious one is, because it's great at writing, is to write appeals, social media posts, and case for supports. Say you need a mailer appeal or a single social media appeal. You could say, hey, here's my appeal. Make a version that's going to be sent via letter to hit this target demo, make a social media version, and make a 1-page case for support where I can do it. It goes bam, 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 bam. And it's incredibly accurate. It'll scrub the internet for your website and know exactly what your campaign's about, as long as it's, has relatively recent information up through September 2021 is what Jared mentioned. So you can throw additional stuff in there. In the next couple of years, it'll get to the point where it can do everything live and it will have up-to-date information. The reason they paused it at September 2021 is because as things have come out, they don't want ChatGPT to scrub information created by ChatGPT. They don't want this like feedback loop. So everything that's been created and put out on the internet now, you can't tell if it's human or AI. So it doesn't know if it's looking for human or AI information. So right now, it's only scrubbing things that were all created by humans in theory, and it can go through and do that. So when it has writing appeals, social media posts, they're not necessarily going to be absolutely perfect. You can't necessarily write, copy, paste, go, but you can spend 3 to 5 minutes editing, playing around with it, and then it's pretty much ready to go. So instead of spending an hour writing an appeal or drafting an appeal letter, you have it draft the letter for you, and then you just kind of adjust, fill in the blanks, and save yourself a ton of time. So really, really great at that. Does a wonderful job. Highly recommend that you start at least in that area. The next thing is to improve your existing materials. Copy and paste your existing materials for case for support, for your appeals, for everything that you have into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you optimize this for me? Improve it a little bit. I want you to update it for 2023, add a couple things in here, make it a little bit longer actually. And you just tell it the little optimizations you want. It says, hey, no problem. Boom, it totally redoes it, optimizes it, gets us all ready to go all instantly. So you can feed your existing text into it, have it change the tone, have it say, hey, make this feel more urgent. You know, we had this appeal at the beginning of our campaign. We're coming up 6 months toward the end. We really need to increase some urgency and let people know that we have to raise this money by December. Great. It rewrites the whole thing with a little bit of extra language, a little urgency, a little bit of time constraints on that. Writing grants. So we are mixed feelings on how effective writing grants is compared to other types of fundraising. But if I can apply to 10 grants and the speed that you can apply to 1, and all of mine are totally typo free, they're compelling, they're in line with my mission, and all I have to do is go back and edit it, I will bring in more money than you. And this is something that actually we were talking to Sterling, who's on the call today, and she was with a group that said, you know, is ChatGPT going to replace me as a grant writer? No, but the people who are great at using ChatGPT certainly will replace you. So we don't want necessarily to try to push our jobs into robots at this point. We want to be able to work with this tool so that we can beat our fellow humans who are also applying for those same grants in terms of volume, in terms of quality, all of this. So you can use it to say, write it in this many words. Say it doesn't write it long enough. Say it writes an appeal and it's supposed to be 3,000 characters. It only gives you 1,200. You say, write that again, but make it twice as long. Boom, instantly it's twice as long. It's compelling, not extemporaneous, exactly what you want. The next is to research grant and donor opportunities. You can ask it to scrub the internet and say, hey, here is the kind of the space that our mission exists. Here's our region, here's our size, all of this. Find for me 20 grants that I could apply for. And it just spits them all out. Okay, can you do a little research on those last 5 that you put? Tell me which kind of organizations they tend to fund and why they seem to fund those things. More information. Okay, now craft appeals for all 5 of those and tailor them specifically to those things that those organizations look for. Boom, 5 appeals. Copy, paste, edit, apply the grants, you're done. And that takes so much less time than manually researching. And it's remarkable how much better it can be than a human. Even the best grant researchers can do that. The next is helping with budgeting, strategic direction, focus retreats. This is a wonderful tool to have kind of a planning retreat. If you're doing a board retreat or a brainstorming session, you can have it kind of conduct it. Tell it, hey, you're an expert moderator. You're Tony Robbins. You know, you're the Tony Robbins. Be Tony Robbins. Conduct our retreat for us. Ask us important questions about the strategic direction of our organization. Give us an outline. Create a 3-day agenda. We have a 4-hour block in the morning and a 2-hour block in the afternoon. Use our time as wisely as possible. So it helps doing that. Tell it your budget. Say, hey, I have a $50,000 budget for recognition. I want to spend it in these 3 areas. Can you give me an estimate on what these will all cost? Boom, tells you exactly what it costs and kind of works it through there. So there's all these little tools. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's a good like creative idea generation tool, and you can use it in that space to do those things. Again, kind of mentioned it, but create agendas for any meeting. Never create an agenda again. If you're typing out an agenda manually, you know that you could do it. Say, hey, we need at least this many minutes for this many minutes for this. Kind of give it some parameters. Tell it to format it properly. Say, hey, make sure you format it in an agenda so I can copy and paste it into a Word doc. And here's what you should include. It goes blah, 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 done, copy, paste it, quick edit, and then you're ready to go. So you can save yourself a ton of time doing that. Summarize minutes. This is something that Pride is actually experimenting with this week. You can tell it to take an entire transcript. Oh, thanks, Frank. We'll see you soon. You can take an entire transcript of a meeting and say, hey, we're on a Zoom call. record every word that is said on the Zoom call and who says it, and then give us a summary of the meeting in minutes form, and then also a bulleted action item list for everybody who has takeaways and things they need to do. So it acts as the minutes keeper and also gives you a perfect summary of every single meeting you're in from now on. And the last thing is what I mentioned earlier. Well, there's got a couple more, but we're responding to emails, generating letters, and kind of getting those for you. Now, you don't want it to do the full send where it like takes the email, creates a response, and sends it automatically, but you can have it create a draft in your outbox that you can then review, make sure it's all good to go, and then press send. You can tell it to change the tone, saying, hey, that's great, but I happen to know Frank, like make this a little more casual. Boom, rewrites it just a little bit more casual. And the last thing is just so many things that we haven't even thought about yet. If someone claims that they are an absolute expert in AI and ChatGPT, they just haven't had the technology long enough to actually be. It's like we're learning new things every single week, and we're going to try to stay on kind of the cutting edge of this because it's very exciting. But it's literally existed for like a few months. And ChatGPT 4, the really new shiny one, which I think is actually just called GPT 4, they're taking the chat off, as someone mentioned. So GPT 4 is even newer. It's like within like a month or so that this has come out. So people who are so-called experts, including us, are not yet experts. We are learning and we are trial and erroring, and we're finding new things all the time that this program does. Again, a little scary. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but in the meantime, we're going to do our best to use it as effective as we can to help fund our missions and say, hey, we don't know what's going to go on, but we're going to point a little bit of this technology towards doing what we can for good. With that, we have a little time left. Would anyone want to do a live demonstration? Just kind of play with it a little bit. You want to see it on screen? Anybody opposed to that? Okay. If you have any questions, this is certainly the time. I'll go ahead and pull this up and we can just play around. If the servers are up, there's a lot of demand for it. So a lot of times it will be offline, but it looks like right now it might be okay. So we're just going to give it a try. Okay. Let's just start with, and people can shout out ideas, but say you are a fundraising expert. We'll start there. Write a case for support for, let's see, there's some Cornerstone people on here for Cornerstone Hospice for their campaign to, what are we going to do? Build a water park, because that's way more fun, for families and patients. This will cost around $100 million. And we also want to use social media to promote our cause. What other info do you need to help me? Let's see what it does. And it says, to create a comprehensive case of support for Cornerstone's campaign to build a water park for families and patients, I require following information: background information on Cornerstone Hospice, mission advancements. So it says, here are the things you need: mission and vision, history of organization, geographical area served, and it gives you all this stuff. So then you go through and you type out, kind of this stuff. Now, I don't have to prompt it. I don't have to prompt it these things. This is just a way to make it a little more specific, a little more advanced. You can just say, promote our cause, create a case for support. It will just do it right off the bat. We find that we get a little better results if we have it help us help it. So here's kind of the thing: testimonials, personal stories, and it's kind of generating. You can see it'll delete stuff and like rewrite it if it feels like it needs to as well. It's kind of all going at once here. ChatGPT 4, which is the one that we're using, or just GPT 4, is a little slower. So you can see it's almost typing in real time. If I use 3, it almost is instant. It's a little less accurate, but it slows it down on purpose for this version, so it'll type it out a little more specifically. It's going to go on for a while, so I'm just going to tell it to stop generating and say, I don't know that information yet, but can you get me started without it? And it says, certainly. Below is a preliminary case for support for Cornerstone Hospice campaign to build a water park for families and patients. As more information becomes available, blah, blah, blah. And here's the title: Transforming Lives, Cornerstone Hospice Water Park Project. Not a great campaign name, but it's okay. Introduction: we understand the importance of comprehensive, compassionate care in their families. Our mission to enhance the quality of life facing life-limiting illness. We believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to make lasting memories with their loved ones, regardless of the circumstances. That's why we're launching an ambitious campaign to build a state-of-the-art water park designed for families and patients. This is a $100 million project, created an inclusive, accessible, and therapeutic environment where patients can experience the joy of play, connection, and relaxation alongside their family members. The need for individuals, blah, blah, blah. It'll keep going for a while here. And it'll do an entire case for support for me. The water park experience talks about exactly what it needs for that, and sort of something. I'm actually going to have it stop here, knowing that it would go for another page. I'm going to say, let's see here. I don't love the campaign title. Can you give me 10 other options that are a little more punchy? How do you spell punchy? Punchy. There we go. Let's see what it does. And it says, of course, here are 10 alternative titles that are a little more punchy and engaging. Splash of Hope. We love that. Cornerstone's Water Park Initiative. Waves of Joy. Building a water park for families. Soak in the memories. That one's a little too on the nose, I think, but I like it. Healing Waters. That's probably my favorite so far. Ride the Wave of Love. Making a Splash. That's kind of a little bit on the head as well. Dive into Compassion. That one's also pretty good. So you don't have to pick necessarily any specific one. You just tell it to give you a bunch of ideas, and you kind of pick your favorite. Water Park Wonders, blah, 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 blah. Feel free to choose one that resonates with you the most. Let me know if you'd like more suggestions. So pretty cool. I'll go to the chat here really quickly. Anita, do you have a good resource for learning how to write better prompts? There are tons of information online that do a great job with that. We find that if you do it in the following format, it is the best way to do this, Anita. So you give it a character first. So like, you are a blank. That way it knows from what perspective to write. It's going to scrub all the websites that it thinks are in that space, all the information that's in that space. And then you're going to give it an action, write a, generate a, and then you're going to give it some like additional instructions, like include this, this, and this. Don't forget this, etc. And then you're going to give it kind of the final bit of information, which is just any final parameters, like make sure that you do this in 2,500 words or less. So there's lots of people right now who are selling prompts, saying, I have the perfect marketing, ChatGPT prompts. They create the best things possible. And they'll sell it for $20 for that pack. You can ask ChatGPT for great prompts. So those people who are doing that are also doing that. So we would recommend not actually going to those specific resources and more just playing around with it. The best way to get great information is to kind of go with this question at the end here. So again, you got right here off the top, tell it what it is, tell it what it needs to write, give it a little more detail if you can, and then you say, what other information do you need to help me? Then it gives you this comprehensive, and it would have kept going. I stopped it at number 6 here, but it would have kept going on all these things. And you say, great, here are the information. And you go back and you type in all these things, and then it rewrites this into this like perfectly beautiful, customized thing, however you want to do it. Does anybody have anything that they want to try? Any suggestions? While we're doing that, I'll read the next question. If we're using the free version and think about investing in the paid version, do you have a suggestion on which version we pay for, or does it just update itself? Press release. That's a great idea, Tammy. So the current paid version just gives you whatever the most recent version is. So the paid version gives you like priority access when the servers are super hot, and whatever the new one that's come out. So I actually bought the paid version, and then shortly after GPT-4 came out. So it was perfect timing for me. But when GPT-5 comes out, they've invested, like, I think Microsoft bought it for like 20 billion, I believe. So they're throwing money at this thing, and it's only going to grow. But let's try a press release. That's a great idea. Megan, do you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't realize I was on mute.
Oh, no, all good. All right. Let's help Tammy write a press release. So we'll start a new chat so it doesn't remember what our other stuff is. A PR exec with, I'll say 40 years experience That's probably a good way to make them feel like an expert. Write a press release for someone. Give me an idea. Throw it in the chat or shout it out. Write a press release. What are we going to talk about? Give everyone a second to type or shout it out.
The new coffee maker that's in the break room.
The new coffee maker in the break room. Maker that's in the break room. Include break room, not one word. I'm going to say it's 2 words. Include all the reasons this will improve the company and how that will change the community for the better. What else should we tell it? Let's get even more specific. Any ideas? Just throw anything at it just to see what it does. We'll say include a version for snail mail, email, and Twitter. Any other prompts to make it even more specific? Any other thoughts?
Ask for a quote from the CEO.
And include a quote from our CEO. And then once we finish this one, I'll wrap up. I know we're a little bit over time, and see what it does. For immediate release, I love that. Contact your name, your company name, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And I can actually input this and have it fill that in for me. A breakthrough coffee maker, revolutionizing company culture and community, city, state, date, company name, proudly announces the installation of a state-of-the-art coffee maker in our break room, making a transformative shift in employee well-being, productivity, and community engagement. Our new coffee maker is more than just a simple appliance. It serves as a catalyst for fostering more vibrant and cohesive workplace. The machine's environmentally friendly design, efficient brewing technology, and exceptional taste quality ensure a positive impact on our company and the community. Here's what the CEO said. Integrating this innovative coffee maker into our daily operations not only boosts employee morale and satisfaction, but also leads to improved productivity and creativity, said CEO name of CEO company. We are confident this investment will yield tremendous benefits, and blah, 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 blah. Here it goes into the features: sustainable design, taste, social hub, brings employees together. In the coming months, it will keep going. Email version, it's going to give you an email version. As it's continuing to walk through here, I'll take any last minute questions about this. I know this feels a little bit like a sales pitch for this technology. It's really not. Again, we're, as Jared said, probably 80% feeling good about this technology, but we're going to use it while we can. So any last minute questions? And also, if anyone wants us to do more of this, like we can go even deeper into like what prompts you should use and some of the specifics. This was kind of an overview if you've never heard of the technology and you want to try to get a little bit into it and some of the things you can do to make it better. But we can go much more in detail if that's something that people would be interested in learning about. Here's the Twitter version. Exciting news with the party emoji. Our breakthrough hashtag coffee maker is revolutioning our workplace and community. Coffee emoji, eco-friendly, tasty, and social. It's brewing up success. World emoji, people emoji, hashtag better together, hashtag sustainable business. It even includes the CEO quote, improve morale, productivity, community engagement, rocket ship emoji. Love that. So fun. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Marty to kind of wrap us up and take us out of here.
All right. Thanks, Cenk. And thank y'all for sticking with us just for a few extra minutes. Just going to really